How the heck are you guys? I am Fastidious. Welcome to my channel and welcome back to our series Best in Class, the fifth and final installment. Today we're talking about the best legendary mages in Watcher of Realms, ranking them from worst to first. And as always in this series, we're joined by a phenomenal guest. Today we have the one, the only, Jake Smash. How you doing, Jake?
I'm doing great, man. How are you? It's been a while.
It's been a while. I think our first collab ever, our only collab about Arena, was probably about exactly a year ago, wasn't it? That was when you just started your channel.
Yeah, it was about 13 months ago.
13 months ago. So kind of full circle moment. Here we are. A lot has changed for both of us in the past year. And I got to just say, before we get into it, and there's 22 of these legendary mages, non-lords. We are not discussing lords. That will be in a different video, as with all these best in class videos. So it's all the non-lord legendary mages in the game that we are going to discuss. But I do want to get the elephant in the room out of the way.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
You just checked. What date did I first message you about us filming this video?
The 9th of January.
The 9th of January. Right now it is February 25th, year of our Lord 2025. So it took us nearly
Almost
2 months.
2 months. Almost actually make this happen. Crazy.
Almost 2 months, but we're finally doing it. And it's going to be good because I actually think this is the spiciest class of the 5. There's the most variability between these. Maybe this and healers, but because there's 22, pretty crazy. So I think without further ado, let's hop right in. Who do you have as the worst of the bunch? Number 22, Jake.
Yep. Let's do it. So my worst of the bunch, number 22, is Lasir.
Okay. Okay.
He just
mic drop.
Are you going to do yours, or am I talking about him?
We'll let you go first. I think we'll alternate. But I hate Lasir more than I hate almost anything in the world. So I don't have him last, but I'm very happy you brought him up. I hate Lasir. Get into it.
He's just not good at anything. The game wants him to be a damage dealer, but he does trash damage, and his anti-healing is far from the best who does it. And yeah, I ranked all of these mages across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different categories to try to find some way to quantify how I was judging everyone. And yeah, no, not even close. He's bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, I do despise Lasir. He's definitely, I'll tell you, he's my least favorite. So just talking about, I think it's such a disastrous design, kind of as you spoke to. Like, they kind of want him to be a DPS. They kind of want him to be a crowd control. He's terrible at both of those. The sand erosion does not stack properly. I actually think it might be bugged, because when you get his exclusive artifact, it's kind of highlighting the sand erosion, and it just doesn't seem to be doing anything. I think he has one of the worst exclusives in the game. I will say he's slightly higher on my list a few spots, just because he has the anti-heal. Consistent anti-heal in this game is only provided by what? Demi, Artemis, and Lasir. I think it's just those three. He's by far the worst of those three, but if you don't have Lasir and you don't have the other two, which is possible, then you're dealing with like Kriya A1, you're dealing Zealous with his exclusive. You know what I've pitched forever? Just make him an epic. This whole kit is fine if he's an epic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
I think it'd be interesting if we start changing epics to legendaries and legendaries to epics. That'd be a fun conversation. But yeah, he's not a legendary. I agree.
Yeah, just the stats suck. The multipliers suck. The kit doesn't make enough sense. Like, we don't have an epic anti-healer. This would be a way to do it. Obviously, yeah, that's maybe a can of worms. But let's go to my 22 and see who I had. So let me reveal to you. I've got Zealous. I presume he's quite low on your list as well.
Quite low. Yeah.
So my issue with Zealous, frankly, is there's nothing going on here. Essentially, you've got the smallest, where is it? The smallest magic vulnerability here. It starts at 10%, it books up to 14%, which is very strange and unique. No one's booking Zealous, so it will never be 14%. It's going to be like Mari's base magic vulnerability or Aeon's base magic vulnerability. Those are 10%, right? But everyone else can scale up with skill ups. He goes to 14. You're never going to invest your legendary dust, maybe eventually your dust, but certainly not your skill crystals into him. He's got these things where if he gets a kill, he gets a damage boost, stuff like that. He's not getting kills because he's not putting out DPS. And I've got to say, there is one way Zealous can be mediocre instead of absolute dog water, and that is going to be his exclusive. However, this is what drives me the craziest about Zealous. There's my A5 Zealous. I've actually pulled him like 8 times. What drives me the craziest is his exclusive gear kind of turns him into an acceptable hero. So his ultimate only lasts 10 seconds. This doubles it to 20 seconds. You also get some other damage stuff. No one is unlocking the gear dungeons, then farming out exclusive gear, and then being like, finally, I get to use Zealous. If you got that far in the game, you are far beyond Zealous, right?
Yeah. funny story about Zealous.
Please.
After the game, after global launch, right? In the first like month or so, I randomly stumbled upon, I'm pretty sure it was a Mabucket video, where he was talking about how important it was get an AoE mage because Gear Raid 1 is so important and get him skilled up. And the first AoE mage that I got was Zealous, and he was my first legendary champion that I fully skilled because of that video.
Yeah, that's actually a really funny thing. So people with all these new games always coming out, I always go back because Watcher Realms had a huge launch. So I'm like, what does a good launch look like? And if you go to Mabucket's first couple videos, they were all like banger views because the game was hot and he was the man. So like he is a Zealous guide with like 35,000 views, which is so funny to me. So that must have been what you saw. I got to also just quickly say with Zealous, that drives me crazy in all games. So not just Watcher Realms, any game where there's a character that looks amazing and is terrible, it drives me insane. Zealous might be a top 5 aesthetic in the entire game, I think, and he is so bad.
Cool.
Yeah. Who do you have at number 21, Jake?
All right, 21, I have Beatrice.
Okay, nice. Talk to me about Beatrix.
Yeah, similarly, the one thing that she kind of sort of has going for her is she's a summoner, right? She has those Dream Eaters. She can do a little bit of damage, a little bit more than Lasir, but it's not very much. Very, very mediocre. Again, could easily argue that she's epic class.
Totally. And I will also, we've got to give a shout out. I've got her coming up pretty soon on my list too. This range, this Cratch range, the Cratch Beatrix range, I really hate it. She could be so much better if she could just maybe get like 3 or 4 Dream Eaters. Then all of a sudden she starts feeling like a legendary DPS. But essentially, she's kind of like Zarus, but with much worse multipliers. Zarus does have the downside that you kind of have to cycle him in and out because he's summoning less every time. But he's going to be very high on both our lists, I'd presume, because he's hitting harder. And he's putting out many, many, many more summons. So even though she's consistent and steady with the 2, and I think it can go up to 3 or 4 when some conditions start happening, it's just not enough. Well, I'll talk about one.
Yeah, I was just agreeing with you. It's just not enough. She needs to do more.
Totally. And the slows aren't consistent enough either, which kind of drives me nuts. So I will talk about one good thing she can do when she comes up on my list. But yeah, she's kind of bottom of the barrel. So you ready for my 21?
I'm ready. Let's see it.
Got Shamir.
All right.
So you got a couple spots higher. I got to say, he's not that bad, I guess. But the thing that drives me crazy with Shamir is to get him going and even to become an acceptable hero is one of the more major investments in the game. You need his exclusive artifact. You need his exclusive gear. Ideally, you need at least his A1, if not up to A5, for him to really start feeling like a legendary hero at all. And even with all of that, you're probably going to want to land the skill ups on the ultimate at least to level 4, so it gets nice and cheap and spammy because this is an auto ult. Yeah. And even with all that said, at that point, he'll be a worse crowd control than Mari, who you get for free on day 3, and he'll be fine DPS. So if you have all that, there's content, and that definitely could come. Drowning Water is kind of interesting, where Lasir, excuse me, I've got bad mages on my mind, where Shamir could kind of be pretty good even. But aside from that, I did my bottom 10 legendaries list with Dr. D's, and I kind of regretted leaving Lasir again. Well, Lasir was on my list. I regret leaving Shamir off of that, and I actually would have put him lower than Lasir like I did now, just because I don't think there's enough here. And I want to kind of give him a penalty, which I will do with a couple of these characters, just because like this is a poorly designed hero. It's just a bad kit.
Yeah, not great at all. So he is. Let's see here. I've got him 18th. We'll get there. However, the difference between Beatrice's score and Shamir's score is only 1 point.
Yeah, fair enough.
19, 18, and 17 are all tied on my spreadsheet. So yeah, everything that you already said, I don't need to say it again. He's just not great.
Yeah, we could just get him out of the way now. I also feel like it wouldn't take so much to improve him, and I wish they would just do it. I don't like these heroes where it's like, hey, you need this crazy investment just to make them mediocre. It'd be one thing if they started terrible, but then with the exclusive artifact and the gear, this, that, and the other, all of a sudden they're awesome, but it's not even close to that. Who do you have at number 20, Jake?
All right, 20, I have Durza.
All right.
Yeah.
Did I spell that wrong? I think it's actually just like this, isn't it?
I think it's just a U.
Yeah. There's Durza. So what are you thinking about him?
So Durza has some interesting capabilities, and he has some very niche uses with chaotics and making everyone stronger. but to actually get that out of him, it requires such a huge investment and a bunch of other chaotics. Him by himself as a mage, he just doesn't do very much. Let me see what I have here. His awakenings, only 3 of his awakenings are even useful. It takes so much to actually get value out of him.
Yeah, I've got Durza pretty low as well. I'll say the reason I don't have him as low as you is just because there is a proper use case for him once you get that Carnelian, once there is the chaotic team. But certainly without that built around him that he's fitting into, at least, he's literally useless. He's as bad as it gets. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, he would be here without that, for sure. All right, my number 20. Let's see what it is. I made this list about a week ago before our last reschedule, so these are going to surprise me a bit. There's my Lasir. Enough said.
There's Lasir.
He sucks. Some people are going to be like, well, I only beat Gear Aid 1 or I only beat Gear Aid 4 or Gear Dungeon 1 because of Lasir. It's like, fine, but just because he's one of the only people that does something, he's not the only person that does it, and he's by a mile the worst. That's my TLDR.
Doesn't make him good.
That doesn't make him good. Who do you have at 19, Jake?
All right, 19 is Zealous.
Zealous. Okay, perfect. I think enough said.
Yep.
He's a big L. My 19 is gonna be Beatrix. All right. We're of one mind. I didn't do the rubric, but I did like gut and thinking and then tweaking. But I think we ended up in a similar place. Let's go to my 18 now. Do we have another overlap? And let's see.
All right.
Here I got Kriya. Where you got Kriya?
Okay. So I've got Kriya 15, but again, it's only 1 point difference.
I'll tell you, Kriya was hard, probably of this bottom tier. There's a definitive, I think, bottom tier, mid tier, and then like crazy top tier guys. Kriya was probably the hardest to rank because I've kind of grown to like a little bit love Kriya because she's so good in the early game. And the early game's a brief moment, right? If you play daily, if you follow Jake Smash videos or my videos, or you're in a good cluster or clan, or you're chatting on the official Discord, you'll get out of the early game certainly within 2 months, if not within 2 to 4 weeks. So it's hard to give her too much of a bonus, but she's tremendous because her base attack is through the roof at over 5,200. It's the highest of any AoE mage in the game besides Praetus and Ingrid. So it's literally like Ingrid at 6,100, Praetus is like 20 points higher, 17 points higher, and then Kriya. So I give her a bonus for that. Her crows extend her range in ways that would shock you, so she kind of gets that craziness. But I will tell you, she's got some of the worst multipliers, especially if you don't skill her up and you don't have awakenings. She falls off a cliff, but then the weirdest part about Kriya, which you will know because you're such a good GVG player, she skyrockets in value once you get her A5 and you have an endgame account. So she's such a strange hero. Did you have trouble ranking her?
So I didn't really have trouble, but again, like I used the spreadsheet, right? So I graded everyone across the value of their ranking, of their awakenings, their PvP value, their PvE value, if they happen to be best in class somewhere, if they have unique synergy with other heroes or other factions, their value at A0 compared to A5, and then if their exclusive artifact or exclusive gear actually provides value to them. So I used all of that.
Yeah.
And I had my list, and then there was a little bit after I looked at it, I was like, maybe I should rethink about this. And overall, not too terrible for her. Like you said, at A5 endgame, there's some funny niche uses for her. And early game, I actually started an alt account like, I don't know, 6 months ago, just to build it up to a certain point and give it away to someone. And she was my first legendary. And she was great. She was great.
It's kind of a dishonest player experience because you're like, oh, so I pulled like the best legendary in the game or like one of the best, and then you're gonna see the second you hit like 19s in the gear aids or 20s, she's useless.
Drops off a cliff.
Yeah. Fun hero though, I gotta say, of all the bad heroes, maybe there's an argument she doesn't need a buff because there's a very early use and then there's a very end use. So kind of interesting. She's got very shiny boobs too, the shiniest in the realm. Who do we have at number 17?
All right, 17, we have Nocturne.
Oh wow, I've got Nocturne so much higher. I'll tell you. This is our first real departure. Why are you so
disagreement?
I would say so. Why are you so down on Nocturne?
All right, so Nocturne, let's see here. What do I have here? I actually like Nocturne, but the thing that really hurts him is he's a single target mage.
Yeah.
And we have very minimal use for single target mage. Also, his awakenings, they're not all useful for him. So it just it doesn't mean he's a bad champ. We're just getting to middle of the pack in my rankings.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I would say like this bottom, certainly these bottom 4, and then I would throw in Shamir too. Like it's a kind of a class of its own. You can see I got Dirt's slightly higher than you. But the thing with Nocturne, I find him really plug and play, which I really enjoy. Like you can build him without any crit rate at all. He just cooks, make him fast, put the attack through the roof. And what you touched on with the single target mages, I think people are going to see, it sounds like on both our lists. I can tell you for sure on mine, it was very hard for any single target mages to even crack my top 10. Single target mages don't have a proper place in this game right now. However, I do think Nocturne is one of the very best. And I think for certain content, he's like extremely unique. So I do have a nice chunk higher. But I'm hearing what you're saying. I just like that, like no skill ups, not even good gear. He just totally works even into the late game. So that's always something I feel like Nocturne's had going for him.
Absolutely useful all the way through like Faction Trials 12, Gear Dungeon 210, Guild Boss. Absolutely has some use, but
yeah,
middle of the road as far as all 22 we're talking about.
Fair enough. All right, let me reveal my number 17 to you, Jake. What color are we on? We're on orange. Here, this is where I got Durza. Kind of same idea. In hindsight, you kind of persuaded me. I feel like maybe I'll even do this live. I think I'm going to switch these two because I kind of sold myself more on Korea and you kind of brought Dirtza down in my estimation. So I think I've only done that once previously in the series that I had a live switch. I did that with Slate with our defenders. Let's go to your number 16.
All right, 16, I have Seraphina.
Seraphina. Okay, nice. I think we're about to go on a run of single target mages, aren't we?
Yeah. Similarly, just kind of like Nocturne, she has some use. She can put out some good damage, but she's a single target mage, and we just don't really need them most of the time.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like it's hard. Seraphina is by no estimation could be like deemed a bad hero. Like she hits pretty hard, it works, but there's no use for her, and she's not as good as some of the other single target mages because it's like a weird piece of the game that like there's a lot of legendary single target mages, and there's just no real place to use them. So if you have even just 2 good ones or even 1 good one, the rest are dead to you. You know, just one.
Exactly.
I will say, I find it really interesting you got Seraphine above Nocturne. I mean, to me, Nocturne is on a whole other level in terms of the single target mages than Seraphina. Like, Seraphina would only edge out Nocturne, in my opinion, in like single target arena. Whereas, like, I feel like Nocturne's a superior choice in Gear Dungeon 2, much better in Guild Boss, very good in Faction Trials.
I got Seraphina 1 spot higher just because with the scores, she got 1 point higher than Nocturne because she has her awakenings.
Okay.
As far as all 5, right? If we go through all of her awakenings, they're more useful than Nocturne's.
Fair enough. Nocturne does get the extended ult from his awakenings. I think that's already at the A1, but yeah, fair point. I think for me, it kind of comes down to what content you're valuing. And I'm seeing Nocturne as like, he is completely elite. I've used him on complete crack and whale takeovers for Gear Dungeon 210. I think he's top choice in Faction Trials. And I for progression, he's quite good in Guild Boss 1. So that's where Nocturne got a big edge for me. And also just ease of use and like also ease of use and the other side, minimal investment. Those two combined. But fair enough. That's your Seraphina. Is this where I have Seraphina? I honestly don't remember. Anai. Okay. So Anai, this you're going to see lots of single targets. Kind of tough here. I will say for me, on my list, this was the big drop. So like I would say Korea's kind of standing alone now that we kind of reordered it, but there's your bottom 5. Here comes Anai. Now we're heading into slightly better quality. But I got to say, she's single target. She's very, very specific. She can help you for progression if you happen to be running Infernal in either Guild Boss, particularly Guild Boss 1. She's okay, but really not desirable in Faction Trials. And then she's just phenomenal in Arbiter of Frost. So I'm assuming she got a bump for you because you said if you're like best at anything, and she's really fantastic there, especially if you start getting her awakenings, she's really good. But to me, Codex it's not that important to do amazing. Like doing good is like almost the same rewards, and it's 1 Codex. You outgrow her in all other pieces of content really fast. I know people are high on her in Guild Boss 1. I think a lot of those people are wrong once you start looking at all the other options we have now and how not meta Infernal is becoming. So I couldn't justify putting her higher than this. Would you mind telling me now where you've got Anai on your list?
I've got her at 13.
Seems fair.
So she got a little bit higher because, like you were saying, she does have strong awakenings, and she is really good Arbiter of Frost. Although it's not really, Immortal Codex, people don't need to, triple S all of the Immortal Codex bosses. When we're talking, like I said, I gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. So 7 of the 22 champs got a single point for being like best in class somewhere, right? So her awakenings are really strong, and she does an incredible work there in Arbiter of Frost. So bumped her up just a little bit. But again, we're talking about 1 point.
Yeah.
Since on my spreadsheet, right, I've got like 8 ties. So
I got to tell you, like, not for now, but if you made a video going through each class and actually showing the spreadsheet, I think that would be very well received. I think a lot of people would like that if you want to put that in the back of your mind. But yeah, you got to say, like, the A1's cool with the magic res reduction. It synergizes well with all the content you're going to use here. Extra damage on the A3, but the A5 is crazy. I just unlocked it like a month ago. Just extra duration on a damage over time effect, especially when you're trying to stack it, it's really something. So that is a huge plus for an eye. Let me reveal my 15, and then we'll go over to your 14. I'm thinking this must be Seraphina. Otherwise, I'm going to surprise myself. Let's see. It is. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. So that checks out. We're really of like minds on everything that isn't Nocturne. Who do you have at 14?
Yeah. 14, we've got Cade.
Cade up. Okay. So I have him coming up fairly soon as well, but he's not my 14. Talk to me about, some people are going to be surprised that both of us have him as high as we do. So maybe you want to speak to that. I think maybe we're viewing this from a certain lens. I'm going to predict you're going to say that might clear it up for some people.
So Cade can do work. He really can. And he's got his exclusive gear, right? His awakenings are strong. He's very, very, very capable at A0. Doesn't need awakenings, even though they do help him. Yeah, but he can put out crazy, crazy, crazy AoE damage. There was a moment in time there where he was dominating Arena.
Yes, there was.
Because he is that capable.
Yeah, I got to say, I'll just talk my piece about him now. I've got him, I think, 2 spots higher. We'll find out. Like I said, I set the list a week ago. But he will shock you in PvP content. Like, especially when you go up against those pesky, like, Cyrus defenses in Arena, and they've got a Cade doing weird crowd control. I've even seen him placed with, like, on Yovar teams without even a Faction Lord. It's pretty crazy, the RNG in his kit, depending on which birds he's summoning. When he hits, I hope I can remember which one it is. Is it Stormbeak? No. What's the one with the little vortex annoying thing? That is such... Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's so frustrating going up against him. You don't know what's coming. RNG is so good on defense and so annoying to deal with on offense, and he'll shock you with the damage he puts out. So he's niche, but he's good at his niche.
Absolutely.
Let's see now who is next. I'll reveal my 14. I actually wonder, could this be him? I think I've got him slightly higher. It'd be kind of fun if it was him, though. Hey!
Yeah!
Is that our first?
Right.
Is that our first matchup? I think so.
That's our first direct match.
Yeah, we've been really close on a few, but that's great. Okay, cool. So then you got a Nye here at 13. We discussed her. Yep. No final thoughts there?
No final thoughts.
Cool. Let's see my 13. Okay, so you can see the single target theme continuing for me. Yep. Kata's our one departure. He's kind of got a mix of burst and hybrid damage. So Glacius, he's great. I mean, what else can I say? Like, to me, he's definitely better than Seraphina. Clearly, you feel the same. The reason I have him below Nocturne is I just think the true damage of Nocturne, the ease of build, the plug and play is just kind of unmatched, and I love the dual faction. But if we ever get content where you need to run Northerners and you need a single target mage and there's consistent shielding, Glacius will skyrocket. If there's a Gear Dungeon 6, right?
Yeah, his kit is built really, really good. We just don't need single target mages. I've got him 1 spot higher. I've got him in 12th, but it's the same score as an eye.
Yeah. The thing with Glacius is, like, you said it right. Like, he's very well designed. Like, there's lots of steady crowd control. He has this very cool effect. Let me see where it is. Where the Eye of Winter, where he'll like pretend they're frozen and give himself boosts. He's got very strong awakenings. So it's like, and it's good DPS. And he synergizes great. So he's like crowd control. His shields let him be stronger, which is what you want to see out of Northerners. He hits hard, this, that, and the other. But you just can't put him higher because where are we going to use him? You know? Yeah. But I would put him at the top of my list of doesn't need a buff, but content could come that will send him up our lists. All right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So your 12 is Glacius, so we're kind of neck and neck again, just off. Let's reveal my 12 now. I'm in the wrong thing. Give me one moment. My 12 is going to be In It. Where do you have In It?
In It. Okay. Well, I do have him a number of spots higher, but again, it's only 1 point.
Yeah. Okay, right? Let's save your reveal then. But why do you? So should I go or should you go? What do you think?
You go. He's on your list right here.
Maybe, but to make it a little interesting, I'll quickly say my thoughts, and then when he comes up on your list, you can take us home. Basically,
right.
We're at the good point of the list, obviously, and it's higher than the other single target mages except for Nocturne for me, and obviously Lyra, who we're going to discuss. And it just comes down to there's just extra functionality. Since they buffed him and they added the damage reduction, debuff, so decreasing incoming damage for your guys by reducing the damage that comes from the enemies. Since they added this on his basic, 0 investment, he's just so high quality for Guild Boss 2. The Ancient Cores are like solid. We all eventually get him A1 for free, which is nice. I wish this wasn't on deploy. I wish this was just like he always can do an extra Ancient Core in some aspect. They could fold that into the kit. Overall, though, damage is pretty darn good, especially if you got good gear. Synergizes very well with Arbiters. I don't really see it as an esotericist, and I love the basic. But I couldn't say too much more than that. So that's kind of why he fell out of my top 10.
That's fair.
We'll get your thoughts shortly, but who do you have at 11?
11, I have Lyra.
Lyra, nice. Okay, so we kind of probably had Lyra and it switched. So I had Lyra pretty darn high. Let me actually quickly reveal mine, but then I want to get your thoughts on Lyra. This is where I got Dahlia.
So I have Lyra here because, again, we're still talking, most of our middle of the pack mages are single target.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it just is what it is. But again, we have another Infernal here, and you've sold me some on Nocturne. I'll give you that. And she can do friggin' wicked damage. But again, we don't need her. She's great if you have her and you haven't cleared stuff yet. She can do excellent damage. Let's see here. What are some specific notes that I have? Okay, yeah, very strong awakenings, kind of middle of the road PvP, but a little extra strong in PvE. Good synergy and relatively strong at A0. You don't need her awakenings. So yeah, just make her better.
I think that's well said. I think I will save my Lyra thoughts the way you're going to save your Init thoughts. I'll just tell you guys, Dahlia, do you have her coming up soon?
I've got Dahlia. No, I've got her a few spots higher.
Okay, well then I'll just give my quick piece on Dahlia. Great hero. She's aged really well, as a lot of us predicted, as I certainly predicted. I've got the receipts. Go watch the videos. The range is weird, but we just needed maps to make it work, and we've started receiving those maps, particularly in GVG, where she's really, really strong. The damage is really good. She's easy to build. She doesn't even need skill ups if you don't have that to invest in her. Just really solid. I like her exclusive artifact a lot as well. And that's basically it. The only thing is, like, she kind of, like, to really be awesome, I feel like you really would want her A1, which, like, most people aren't going to have because she's not going to be worth the soul stone, and she hasn't been on rerun. I'll tell you, if she goes on rerun, I'm definitely pulling for another copy. But I just see her as she's very unique, very cool range. She fits very nicely into her faction, but nothing more than that. Because, there's crowd control, there's special stuff, but the really cool thing is kind of the increased block and the increased damage, which only really is going to be happening in almost all content once you have her A1. Otherwise, it's just too conditional. So I couldn't give her a higher bump, especially when we're going to talk about some of the other AoE mages who are just kind of nutty.
Makes sense.
So who do you have now at number 10? We finally have entered our top 10, Jake.
Finally broke into the top 10. Rounding it out, we have Zarus.
Nice, Zarus. Zarus, it's crazy. Like, I think we all kind of liked Zarus when he came out. I don't know, maybe you were really high from the get-go, but I feel like the more we've all used Zarus over the past couple months, he's in my top 10 too, obviously. Yeah,
I think he was like, initially when he was coming out, I was like, oh, that's neat. That's like cool. Had him like a little bit above average, right? But not crazy. And then surprised me for sure. But he puts out some wicked burst damage. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. He's the opposite of plug and play. I think he's kind of clunky to some people to use, because to really use him, you got to cycle him in and out, but it's not as simple as someone like Xena, where you're kind of like putting her down and then the second she's done, you take her out. With Zarus, there's always you got to find that sweet spot for different pieces of content when you want to actually pick him back up. But yeah, especially that first deploy. Holy crap.
Yeah, that first deployment. I mean, all of his awakenings are very, very strong. He's very, very capable in PvP and PvE, right? You just got to think about him a little bit. He's not simple to use. He's also like, his A1 is really important.
Yeah. Really cool. I will say, though, as strong as his A1 is, and it could be the difference between like clearing gear aid 1 or not, or something when you're early on, something like that, if you have good enough gear, you're against even deep into Overlord. I'm noticing it works. I eventually did get his A1 and A2, but like those initial 3 summons, that's still kind of plenty once you get that quick ult up. He's a pretty crazy guy. He hits so hard. He's kind of what I wish Beatrix was, like a weaker version of Zarus, but not a super weaker version of Zarus like she actually is. Like she could be the one you don't have to cycle, but just like 70% Zarus instead of don't have to cycle and she's 40% Zarus or whatever it is. Let me see. I don't think I have Zarus at 10. I think I have him slightly higher, but let me reveal my 10 now. Yeah, this is where I have Nocturne. We kind of talked plenty about him. I think people get how I feel about him. Yeah, just to bring it home, I just think the true damage makes him really special to use, and he's just really easy, and he just works where you need him to work. Who do you have at number 9?
Number 9, we have Init.
Init, nice. So what are your thoughts on Init? How did he crack your top 10 but not mine?
So he got into my top 10 because he has really strong awakenings, really good in PvP and PvE content, great synergy supporting other champs as well as doing damage himself. He's got the damage reduction now. And even though we all will eventually get him A1, really, really high value at A0. Yeah. So a couple spots higher than you, but again, we're talking about maybe 1 or 2 points on the spreadsheet. So.
I actually think, though, you made a point that kind of sways me to not enough to change it right now, but maybe I could see him going at 11 instead of 12. And that point really just being there is some PvP viability. At the very least, he's another Arbiter warm body to crank up your team if you need that. You know, he's a free to play option. You're going to get the same way Alistair is, who we're obviously is coming up on both of our lists. But I think those are all very fair reasons. Shall I reveal my number 9, Jake?
Please do.
This is where I have speak of the dirty devil. This is where I got Alistair. So some people might be really high on Alistair, maybe some people aren't. My issue with Alistair is I just think he's really specific. You can make him work in a lot of places. Like if you want to run Watcher, I wouldn't run Arbiter in Guild Boss 1, but if you want to run Watcher, you could use him and he could be pretty darn good. He's obviously phenomenal in Guild Boss 2, Semra, especially if you have his A1. But I kind of give him a knock, do a knock against him because you have to invest in him or you don't have to invest in Init to get that damage reduction going. And the only way he gets way better than Init, which is why he's still higher on my list, is because you need the A1 for him to make that kind of jump. But I find him a lot more usable for a lot of different content. I think people sleep on his DPS. Alistair's attack is through the roof. It's the same as Kriya. For single target, I think it's only exceeded by Praetus, and I guess Praetus is kind of hybrid. So pure single target, he's just stands alone at 5248. It's pretty nuts. He's very versatile, especially if you got him when he was the shard summoning event, the fusion, and you were an earlier on account. You could have just used him everywhere because he just kind of works. I like the kit. I like everything. I think my only knock against him, and I still put him at number 9, is just he becomes such a different, more special hero when you get this A1. And I think a lot of people don't get him A1. So this kind of was a knock against him, even though this is, once you have this, he's just super phenomenal.
Yeah. I have Alistair at 6.
Whoa. Okay. So you want to get your thoughts in now?
So really, really in line with what you said. The only real difference is that, because the big comparison for him is Init.
Yeah.
They're very, very similar. They do a lot of similar things, but his awakenings are a little bit more useful than Init's, assuming in some weird world we're getting both of them to A5, right? So his awakenings are just a little bit stronger. And as far as that damage reduction between him and Init, again, if we're just pairing both of them, usually he's going to do a better job in the team. So just barely edges him out.
Well, I do want to quickly say they've got identical damage reduction, right? They're both minus 30%.
Yeah. So if I'm comparing them as I want a damage reduction champ, if I've got them both to use, usually Alistair is going to be
that I agree
a little
with.
better.
Yeah. The knock against Alistair is you have to skill him up to get it, but eventually you will. Yeah. And then I agree. We both put Alistair higher. He hits really hard, and that A1 is pretty crazy. Also, you got to give a benefit to Alistair. We're all guaranteed to get in it A1. As it stands now, none of us will ever get him higher because no one, I don't think, should put a soul stone into him, and they're not providing more in it soul stones yet. I would think eventually they will. Who do you have at number 8, Jake?
All right, number 8, we have Virna.
Nice. Wow. This is probably our biggest departure, I would think.
All right.
I'm a very high on Virna. Tell me why you love Virna, but why you're not so in love with Virna.
All right. So I do love Virna. The thing that hurts her is that she is not great for PvP content. And for her to really shine, you need some awakenings.
I think PvP is
So-
a great call. I think that probably is the one knock against her, which, as many people know, I'm not so high on PvP, so I give it less consideration. But that is really fair. I think I'll reserve my Virna thoughts for when she comes up later on my list. Any final things here, or just you love her, but she's not really PvP viable?
Yeah, pretty much. I love her. She does great damage. Her execution's fantastic. You'll get to her when she's higher. But yeah, just not really useful in PvP is what hurts her in this conversation of the top 10.
Very fair. Can't argue with that. Let's go to my number 8 now. Quick little reveal. This is where I've got Lyra. Already discussed her.
All right.
I just have her a bit higher. Something we haven't talked about yet. She's a stripper, right? And that came out wrong, but you know what I'm saying. She is a buff dispeller. It's just her.
Yeah.
It's just Kagiri. It's just Lucius. Anyone starting has no access to Kagiri right now, so it's just her and Lucius. And if you happen to not run Watchers, like Watcher faction, she's gonna be probably your choice. It's a little clunkier to use than both Lucius and certainly than Kagiri, where he's just like automatic. You don't even have to worry about how to dispel those buffs. But once you get it going, she hits so shockingly hard for any infernal content. If you have her, you will use her. She has the strongest magic res reduction in the game, and it's essentially permanent because it lasts for 8 seconds and it's inflicted on every basic, and her ultimate only takes 3 seconds. So basically, she's got those 2 special things. She's the only non-Lucius and the only magic DPS hero in the game that can be a buff dispeller. And she has the most potent magic break, which I think is fantastic now. And as we get harder content, it seems like all they do is raise the defense or raise the magic resistance. So I think she'll only get stronger. So I just had to have her as my number 1 single target mage, because to me, she probably is. I also just love her. Like, I think she's the coolest hero, so.
Good call. I did forget about the buff stripping, so that would change it a little bit.
Yeah, just because it's such a rare thing to come by right now. So she's just got those 2 super unique things, and she hits like a goddamn truck. So that's kind of yeah. I want to give one final shout. You mentioned how good I think you said like her awakenings are amazing, but we didn't go over it. They're all good. Go through them yourself. But the A5, because she's already placing a 30% magic res reduction, and that is additive in this game. She ignores all of their magic resistance. So this is true damage that can crit.
Lyra is the only non-ancient exclusive champion that I'm missing right now.
Yeah, I just got her. I pulled over 1,000 times on her banner and didn't get her, and then I just randomly got her the other day. So I hope you get her soon. She's awesome. Nice. And then I hope we both get a bunch of awakenings. All right, where did we leave off? We're at number 7. Who do you have here, Jake?
All right, 7, I've got Dahlia.
Nice. So maybe just a quick word on why you've got her a little higher than me. I'm thinking maybe PvP stuff.
So Dahlia, yeah, probably. All of her awakenings are valuable, assuming we ever get to pull for her again. They're all valuable. She's great in PvE and she's great in PvP. You don't need her awakenings. They make her better, but she's very, very viable at A0. And her exclusive artifact is useful, especially when we're talking about mages, when we've got the Tier of Twilight, which is almost always best in class, right? If someone has an exclusive artifact that is actually viable, that gives them a little extra value. At least in my mind.
I think those are really good points. I also think Dahlia, like we talked about with Glacius, it's only going to take like, if it's Gear Dungeon, a Gear Raid 6 or Gear Dungeon 3 or Gear Dungeon 4, or they add a new tower content where you need this range, all of a sudden she's best in slot in another piece of content. So we already got AMR 22 where she's to me, she's better than Ingrid. I know everyone, like Ingrid's a cheat code, but you still have to be able to build her. Dahlia the whole thing is in slow-mo the entire time. It's complete easy mode. And then some of those GVG maps, she's just completely dominated. We get one more PvP content, we get one more PvE content, and all of a sudden she's a must own, right? So she could get even higher. I like all of it. I think she's really well designed. I'll tell you one final thing. I don't want to waste too much time on Dahlia. She's just also one of my favorites. Her exclusive is not only like really excellent for her, and even at base promo for certain content, but certainly with a couple promotions into it, it's definitively her best in slot for everything. But for GVG, there's RNG built into her exclusive, which is like more annoying stuff your enemies have to deal with, which is great.
RNG and GVG sucks. It's no fun.
It sucks when you're on offense. But when you're on defense, you want as much RNG to throw at them as possible. All right, who do I have at number 7? This is going to be Anora. So we're kind of aligned in our groupings, I would say. We've had a couple little things, but we're both having Anora pretty dang high. I love Anora. Originally, I think I had her at 5 or 6, but I had to give her a little knock. The reason I'll just tell you, she's phenomenal. We're at that point of the list where I think all these guys are like superstars. The reason I gave her a knock is for her to really become a Nora, you need Ymmerit, who I would guess 95% of players will never pull. So I just feel like she's a limited, and then you need an ancient exclusive Lord Rate hero to unlock her full capabilities. That being said, we both have those full capabilities on our accounts, so we can speak to them, and it's crazy. Like once she starts putting out Labor Ice instead of normal Labor, it's just nutty. She hits very hard. She's very bursty. If you can get some promotions into her exclusive artifact, it's one of the single best in the entire game. I really like her. She's strange. You can't like put normal sets on her because she doesn't get damage like buffs from Soulbound Arcana or Infernal Roar or something like that. So you're gonna rock her in Ageless or something. But a well-built Denora, it takes a while, and it's gonna take a Ymmerit, but it's a special thing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything that you just said, all awakenings are strong. Again, assuming we ever get to pull for her again, great in PvP and great in PvE. She does have Imrit, which is a pro and a con, right? As the bond skill, super, super viable at A0, which is a big part of my grading criteria at least, and the exclusive artifact, like you said. I've got her a couple spots higher. But again, she's just in the next group. So I've got her 4th.
Nice. That's what I was actually going to get.
But again, that's just my next tier of ties, essentially. She's one spot higher than Alistair.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, starting with Lyra, this top 8, these are like the total rock stars in my opinion. And yeah, Nora, if Ymmerit was just like not ancient exclusive or like not Lord Rate, maybe he was a normal ancient exclusive, then I'd give her probably 2 spots. I'd probably put her at 5. But because her full potential is so insanely hard to unlock, I couldn't put her higher. Let me reveal my number 6 to you now, Jake. Give me one moment. This is where I had Zarus. Okay. He's if you're willing to learn how to use him, he's so good in PvE. When you combine that with the fact that he's broken in anti-air and broken in AoE arena, I know people don't like arena. I don't like arena, but like you have to do it, and he will single-handedly carry you to Overlord. So combining that with the fact that like he is dominant in Gear Aid 1, in Gear Aid 2, you can even use him in Gear Aid 4 if you want to get spicy with it. I think he can be even really amazing in AMR 22. So I didn't make the rubric, but when I was thinking through it, I was like, dang, you can use Zarus in so many places. He's so good. Yeah. So I almost put him in my top 5. He's so good.
The only reason that I've got him a little bit lower is just because Awakenings make him so much stronger, right? He's just much less of a champion at A0, which is what the majority of people are going to have.
Yeah.
So,
let me actually, I'm glad you said that. I want to shout something out. I think a lot of people come from other games and they think, oh, it's just stats. This whole game is just stats. It's the most important thing. There's so many heroes where their A2, where it's just attack, is like their best awakening. Virna's best awakening is their A2. Zarus' A2 is crazy. He already has very high multipliers for how they designed him, and if I ever find him, I'll show you what is... Jesus, Zarus, where are you, dude?
Right.
There we go. I forgot about his little red hood. But yeah, Zarus, if you look, he gets 300 more attack at A2, which doesn't seem like much, but with those multipliers, and they always make the cultist summoners have low attack, he only has 4,050 attacks. This is like plus 8% base attack that everything builds upon. I just got my A2 Zarus like a month ago. The night and day difference where he just like now like no one can compete with me until I'm heading towards Apex. Like it's just insta delete button. You're right about the awakenings. They take a lot, but they're pretty crazy. Just want to get that point out there. So I mentioned top 5. Let's enter the top 5. Who do you have at number 5?
Heck yeah. All right, number 5, I have Beelzebub.
Okay, nice. I'm pretty sure I have him number 3. So let me go for that reveal. We can get our Beelzebub discussion out of the way now. No, I don't. Ooh, and I have him even higher. All right, we'll discuss him now, and then people can just be like, "Hey, where do you have him?"
Yeah, Beelzebub's great. He's absolutely phenomenal. Really strong awakenings. Has PvP viability. Great in PvE. He can argue a best in class slot. He just does so much stuff. He's got inspiration, he's got crowd control, he's got damage, he's got his exclusive artifact. Really, really highly useful in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he has an argument to be the single most like versatile champ in the game. Like for every single hero, I think there's like almost no piece of content he doesn't excel in besides like AMR 21, where you literally can't use him. But like AMR 22, I would argue He's in that top 3 or 4 with Dahlia and Ingrid and whoever else is the single best in the game. He has the best range for putting out inspiration. I'll just get my whole Beelzebub spiel out of the way now. I'll keep it in under 30 seconds. So he's crazy there, and the crowd control is so slept on. The vulnerability is amazing. I think there's an argument he's the best here in the game for Gear Aid 1. He makes building everyone else super easy mode. You can fit all the fighters behind the wall too. He's the only one that allows you to do that. Gear Dungeon 1, aka Gear Aid 4. That strat with him and Virna now is the only one I use if accounts have that those heroes available. Just perfect. And then he's good in every PvP mode, basically. Except every single target, you don't need to use him, but TLDR, he's just good everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, shall I reveal my 5th place?
Let's see it.
This is where I have Boreas.
So okay.
I think we're at the point where you should just tell me where you've got these guys.
I have Boreas at number 1.
Number 1, Mamma Mia.
He's at the top of my list.
Maybe then I give 30 seconds on Boreas and then you bring it home in a big way because that's your number 1. I don't want to take too much away from that. I'll tell you, Boreas is phenomenal. Love him. I just feel like with some of the endgame PvE content, he can't really be used because they keep saying Frozen isn't working, Freeze isn't working, that kind of crowd control stuff. And then there's stuff where you don't need magic damage. I think we've got so many other amazing options now in Gear Aid 1 that I did a knock against him, even though he's completely broken there. He's still phenomenal. Yeah. He's great in PvP. I have nothing bad to say about him, but I had to put the other guys ahead of him for, just reasons I stated. But let's save yours because you got him number 1.
All right. We'll wait until he comes up.
Yeah.
At the end?
Yeah.
Right.
You'll bring it home with a big Boreas chat. All right. At number 4, this is where I've got Virna. I'll just say that what I love so much about Virna, she's aged like the finest wine. She has a top 3 or 5 exclusive artifact in the game. She is arguably the number 1 piece of exclusive gear in the game. And on top of all, so that made her rise to the level, in my opinion, in terms of DPS with Comet and Boreas, heroes like that. But on top of all that, I have to give her another plus. She makes Silas, and that is part of what she brings. So she makes Silas. She's got the most customizable, amazing stuff. Her awakenings kind of suck. Only her A2 matters, in my opinion. But she just hits really hard to execute. I think will age well in the game. And she's great. She makes Silas. What else we got to say? Where do you have Virna?
Yeah.
Oh, you already did Virna.
I already did her,
I
just had her a couple spots higher, but again, we're talking nothing here.
Yeah, we're in the home stretch. I'm like, where do I have you? You only have 2 more, so we can kind of start figuring this out. I can already see who you're missing. So who do you have at number 3?
Number 3, I have Ajax.
Wow. Okay. So should we do a full reveal? I don't even know the best way. Well, I already showed that my number 3 was Comet. People can already do some math.
Obviously, Comet's my number 2.
Comet's your number 2. Maybe I'll do a little suspense. Who are my 1 and 2?
All right.
We know it's Ajax and we know it's Beelzebub. But okay, let's start with Comet because he's my 3. He's your 2, right?
Okay.
So why is Comet? They've probably tried. I don't know, but why can they not power creep Comet?
Because he just does ungodly damage.
Yeah.
His multipliers are so good. He just does crazy damage. He's great in PvP. He's great in PvE. All of his awakenings are great. All of his awakenings just make him that much better of a champ. But you also don't really need them. He's really good. He's very viable. He's very powerful at A0. Can still clear all end game content that you would want an AoE mage for at A0. And he's got exclusive gear now too, which just makes him a little bit better. He's really, really good. I will
say his exclusive gear, the effect is nice, but you're never going to run Comet in Hell's Lament, which is too bad. But I would suspect they have to buff Hell's Lament again because it's such a disaster.
I would assume they'll buff the set as well, but we'll see.
I hope so. Yeah, Comet is just Comet. I mean, he's like, if you just are talking damage, nothing else, he's number 1 in the game for AoE magic damage. It's that simple. Yeah. I guess besides like Ingrid and Praetus, but they're not allowed to be on this list. But he's nuts. I mean, what else is there to say? I'll tell you, he's coded like a single target. That's what happened. They coded him as if he was Lyra or as if he was Soul Cadence or something, but then they let it be AoE bursts. So just nuts. He's crazy.
I'll take it.
I'll take it too. All right. So I guess drum roll moment. I think people could guess. Actually, maybe they can't because I'm such a Beelzebub simp. But at number 2, we got Beelzebub. At number 1, we got Ajax. Who do you want to talk?
All right.
Yeah. I originally had Ajax at like 4, I think, and then I
Okay.
kept being like, he needs to be one higher. He needs to be one higher. And before I knew it, he was at number 1. Maybe we just talk about. Let me wrap up Beelzebub, and then we can talk about Ajax and Boreas. So Beelzebub, love him, versatile, beautiful. Watch my million pieces of content on him. He's like my favorite. He's probably my single favorite here in the game. But Ajax.
Yep.
You want to start us off?
So I've got him 3rd, but that's 1 point lower than Comet and Boreas, right? The thing that hurts Ajax is that for him to shine, he really needs awakenings. His awakenings make him just so much better of a champion. They are exceptionally strong. They're all valuable. When we're talking here, we're talking about champs that are good in PvE and PvP content. He's got crazy range, really good synergy. He's got exclusive artifacts and exclusive gear. Like, he's just got everything. But the thing that hurts him and why he's not, 1st or 2nd for me is that he's just so much less at A0.
Yeah, I actually hear all of that, and I appreciate all that. I think basically what I decided as I was trying to refine this top of the list is because he's unnameable, so he's Ditto, he can join any faction. He's already still good at A0 and without exclusive gear and exclusive artifacts, and he's got the unnameable Lord skill, the Ancient Blood.
Yeah.
I was thinking even at A0, even with nothing special, he's still fantastic. And the fact that once he has everything, I legitimately do think he's the best in the game. I was like, I gotta just say he's the best in the game. But you are right. It does take awakenings, especially. I was going to say especially, he's probably the only hero in the game where you could argue every one of his 5 awakenings is game changing.
Yeah.
The only argument I could see is endgame, who really cares about cost, but still, he's expensive as hell at 26. 21 is a huge difference. And the other ones are crazy. Improving the Ancient Blood while increasing his attack, that's crazy. This is wild. Extra crit damage doesn't seem like much, but it's a lot. And the A3, the trigger chance, this is like needed for endgame GVG. The A4 we talked about the cost, and then the A5 is just this is constant, right? Because he does his Thunderstrike a lot. This is his passive, so
especially after getting in A3 and it happening 25% of the time. That's happening all the time.
That is true. Yeah, it's a great synergy. The A3 is making the A5 just he's nuts. He's nuts. And yeah, I guess the other thing that pushed him over the top for me is I do think he's the best PvP hero out of all of these guys. So that was kind of like of the tiebreaker. If you got him built out perfect, if you had everyone built perfect, he can compete with everyone else in PvE. And I think because he can be an arbiter, because he can be whatever you need, a watcher, if you're running an Ingrid comp, he explodes. All right, let's talk about Boreas. You got him number 1.
All right. So Boreas, the only thing, right? And again, we're talking about 1 point, but Boreas, he just does it all. He just does it all. He does crazy damage. He's got crowd control. All of his awakenings are strong. He's great in PvE. He's great in PvP. He's just disgusting for Gear Raid 1, right? And he's very, very, very viable. The thing that separated him from the other couple that we were talking about, right, is he's more viable at A0. His awakenings are really, really strong, but we don't need them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He does have crazy awakenings, though. Kind of like the A1 I like because it enables you to not have to run him with a Mari or an Eye or something. Yeah. He can start doing the freezing himself. During his ultimate, he's putting out pretty darn consistent freezes. Instead of 10%, it's 40%. The A3, the boosting damage is crazy. The A5, though, I mean, it takes a while to get there, but as someone with A5 Boreas, pretty special. I would say just, again, the knock against Boreas for me is I feel like they've limited what content he can excel in because he can't work in Gear Dungeon 1, for example, stuff like that. He obviously can't work in Gear Dungeon 2. So those kind of restrict him. But that all being said, when we've gotten the new content where they don't put those just restrictions, all of a sudden you remember even post-nerf, this guy is completely broken.
Yeah.
Like AMR 22, ridiculous. And then when they introduced Chapter 10, I was like, oh, so Boreas is the best mage in the game.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
When he's not restricted, he does still feel like that. But because I do find him restricted a bit now, I had to give him the little knock. I really like how these lists turned out, though. There's enough variance, but I think we were of similar minds. Any final thoughts, Jake?
No, this was a lot of fun. I think, like you said, right, we've mostly got 3 camps here.
Yeah.
And then basically the only real difference we were talking, right, was like Nocturne.
Yeah,
that was really it. We had a couple spots, but nothing major. It was a lot of fun.
I think it worked out really nice. I think the mages are a crazy class. I hope they keep doing fun things with it where you get more like of these supporty heroes like Beelzebub. I really enjoy characters like that. And yeah, it's all going to depend on the content. I think content could really move these guys up and down a lot.
For sure.
Thank you so much for coming, Jake. Thanks for rounding out this series with me. We've done all 5 classes now. Maybe I'm going to have to do a 6th video if that new cavalry class ever comes. You excited about that one?
I'm super excited about it. I like anything new. And according to, the official leaks video, we got a lot new that's supposed to come this year. Sweet. Question for you, though. Before we wrap it up, though, how do you feel about talking about lords since they weren't on the list? Just if they weren't a lord, if they didn't have their lord skills and bonuses, just how they rate as a champ.
Yeah, I love that idea, and actually I have a separate video planned, which you and all 4 other collaborators will get featured in, so you guys can look forward to that. Everyone keeps asking, well, if this lord wasn't a lord, where would you put them? We're going to have each guest back on for like 4 or 5 minutes, and everyone's going to share their thoughts on where we'd put them, and I have all the lists saved, so we'll do that now. So right after we sign off here, we're going to go film that. Jake, thank you so much for joining me. Everyone go check out Jake's channel in the description of this video in the top pinned comment. Thank you, Jake. Share with your mother, guys. We'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.